Okay, trade recap here from May 29th, the GreatStockPicks.com day trading chat room. My first idea, and these could be out of order, but I take notes as I make calls, so I remember to put them in the video. CLNE, big volume at the open, and put in an early high of 1098. Pulled back, but held up pretty well. I just went ahead and called this long at 1101 with a 1080 stop. And I mean, that it came back and retested, but it went pretty quickly to 1116. I got a scalp there, and it ended up closing pretty well, flagging at the high of the day. The reason I was hesitant and took quick profits, though, is because on the daily, it was hitting the 200-day, and you can see that pretty much stopped it. It couldn't get through it, but it did hold up pretty well, all things considered. Anyway, a decent way to start the day, albeit not exactly huge. CLDX, I never did make a call in. I was wanting this one. It was interesting over 15, but in my opinion, it had come too far to get there. So I never made a call in this thing, and ended up closing pretty weak. But that was on the watch list last night, so it's in my notes. One of our members, Jordy, posted YOD. It already kind of had my attention from yesterday, had that nice move, and was in a nice narrow range. So when Jordy posted, hey, what about YOD over the high of the day? I looked at it and put together a call real quick. Said 315, and the stop at 305. Triggered right there. I mean, just boom, from 315 real quickly to 358. Percentage-wise, guys, anyone who doesn't sell at least a portion into a move from 315 or 320 to almost 360, deserves to be chat slapped. Somebody needs to reach into the chat room and slap you. That's a nice percentage gain. So make sure that you always sell some anytime you get a nice pop. It's as Jim Cramer would say, it's a high quality problem to have, wondering where to sell when something's ripping in your favor. But it ended up the rest of the day did nothing, just bleeding back down to the entry. So that's why when you have a gain, you take it. ASTM, a couple cheapies today caught my attention. ASTM was one of them, and I called it at 476 when it looked like this, thinking it might move to 5, and it pretty quickly moved to 498. And here's the daily, and that's why it was interesting to me. You had this huge move back here to almost 7, then you had a lower high to almost 5, then a lower high still. Well, then yesterday it challenged that lower high and then took it out today. So I got a scalp. I didn't get as much as I could have out of ASTM, but this thing, if it gets over 5 one of these days, it could really rip. So keep it on watch. But it was worth a shot. BCRX, I forgot I even called this one. I think they had a secondary. But it was still interesting to me because it held, I think the secondary price was 10, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not positive about that. Anyway, it came right back to the high of the day. I said over the high of the day, this might get a good pop, which I think was 1032, and you can see what happens. It went from 1032 to probably 1036 and just sideways. Whenever I take a trade like that, that's a high of day break, and actually I never got this one because I was doing something else. I posted it, maybe when it looked like this, and it took about 10 minutes. By the time it triggered, I was off doing something else. But had I taken this, if you're looking for a high of day break, with another catalyst just to the left, you're looking for a real quick move. So had I taken this, I would have been out flat because you're talking a good 5 minutes in, it didn't move at all. And then what happens? It kind of just chops around the rest of the day. Trades like that should work right away. All right. PHM, I called as a short right around 1979. I could have got this quicker, but the home builders weren't really participating in the strength. And when it came down there, I called it as a short, somewhere around 1979. Let me make sure I have this one right. And the stop, I think I have the wrong one. No, it looks like that was it. Is it 1979, which 15-minute candles will show it a little more clearly. All right, you had a lower high from yesterday. I already had this on short watch anyway based on the daily chart. And then it bounced up and failed, so that's why I shorted it right there. And my stop was at 1994, I believe. And then when it bled down to the low of the day there, I said, you know what, guys, that's enough. We're close to the low of the day. I'm covering. And so it wasn't a big trade. I think I got 15 cents out of it. It was in the mid-1960s when I covered. So big deal, right? And the sad thing is, it took a few hours to do that. But I made a few bucks on it. All right. Anyway, let's see. PANW, one of our members, Michael N, said, hey, doesn't this meet your buy parameters when it looked like this? And interestingly enough, the reason I love this setup here, it gapped up, all right? And then as it's coming down, it takes out the low of the day. What often happens when you have a big gap up and then after it sells off and you get a long base, you get the low of day break and you get people trying to make the easy money shorting the low of day, all right? They think, oh, it's definitely heading down now, all right? So couple that, what I call is weak hands, or anyone trying to make easy money in the market is usually going to be thwarted, right? And that's these folks right here, shorting down here. It had already fallen, I can't tell, maybe a buck or more to get there, okay? And then you also had this green line here, which is the 60-period moving average on 5s. Another place we always look for a bounce in the chat room on a strong stock, okay? And you could call this strong because of the gap up, although on an intraday basis it's fairly weak. But still, Michael N, one of our members, put it on my radar by saying, hey, isn't this an area where you like? And because it was taking out the early lows and it was at the 5-minute 60-period moving average, I said, yeah, actually back over 74 with a low of day stop, this could work. And there you can't 15-minute candles, so or 5-minute candles. I'm sorry. So it went back through 74 with a low of day stop, and it was up, I don't know, almost a buck, about 80 cents in 10 or 15 minutes. Now it ended up going lower, but again, we're day traders, and this little green patch right here is money in your pocket. I also like to include in my videos group misses. All right, what I mean by that is everyone in the chat room. Well, actually, a couple guys identified this. This AAL, American Airlines, had shape, okay? And you've seen enough of my if you've seen any of my videos, you know what I mean by shape. It's just accelerating to the downside, and you see the nice reversal there. But what I am trying to start doing, rather than waiting on stuff like this, rather than waiting for a candlestick setup, is just nibbling when it gets to support. Okay, so you've got a nice long base there between 39.40 and 39.50. Now, having said that, I didn't do this, just to be clear. But we identified the shape. That is worthy of a nibble right there at support without worrying about candlestick setups. Now, you've got to have an arbitrary stop in mind, because a lot of people would listen to what I'm saying and say, oh man, you're catching a falling knife, okay? Having said that, I don't mind doing this, okay? Buying it here, maybe my stop is, you know, all the way down here at 39. So I know where I'll kill it if if it's going to just keep tanking. I've got a stop in mind, and my position size would be in tandem with that, okay? In other words, I would only take enough shares that if this keeps falling, it won't hurt me. So it gives it a little bit of a wider stop, but it makes it where you don't have to try to go to 1s or 2-minute candles and find an entry. It allows you to nibble comfortably, if that makes any sense to you. And the bounce from there was super nice, okay? So that could have been a little extra money in your pocket. Anyway, that falls into the group miss category. LNG, man, this thing just took off. Something I teach our members is whenever you have a crazy breakout like this, first of all, you can't chase. I mean, I'll tell you from experience, if I just watch this thing and keep watching it and finally say, oh man, I'm jumping in, that'll be the exact top. So you can't chase. But what you can do is switch to a low time frame candle. And these are 1-minute candles. So what happens here is you've got some people who did just what I talked about. They just decided to buy it up here, right? I mean, the thing's already run up, and then they can't stand it anymore. They figure, oh, it's going to 70 in the next 5 minutes. They buy it, and look what happens. So I guarantee you, if you've traded for any length of time, you've been the person buying it up here, only to say, what have I just done, right? Here's a way to play these, all right? And I had this on the projector and told everybody, this is meeting those parameters. You could put a bid in right at this blue line here. Okay, now again, you put the bid in and your stop's going to have to be wide. Your stop's going to have to be like maybe where the volume started, okay? So then you do the math and you're only going to bid for a number of shares that you can stomach the stop out if it gets there. But what you're doing is you're bidding where all these people who bought late are panicking and driving it down to. Now look what happens. That blue line, it went below it, but again, with position size that makes sense, you can do that. And I know at least we had a couple members do that and got a great fill. I mean, 59 in the 59.70s, and this thing went all the way to 62.71. So about a $3 move from there. So there's a way to play those if you've ever seen them. And I have different tiers of where I'll play those. It depends on the strength of the stock. Okay, if it's super strong like LNG, I like to go to 1 minute candles and try to bid at the 8-period moving average. If it's, I don't know how to word this, if it's medium strong, then I'll switch to 2 minute candles and so on and try to buy it at the 8-period. So anyway, but the really, really strong ones, that's a great way to play them. Just make sure you manage your position size properly. And lastly, one of our moderators, Zozo, this is First Solar, and this is the first 10 minutes of trading right here. Now, Zozo, I believe, uses eSignal charts, and I do as well, and eSignal was messed up this morning. It was very, very tough to find trades when none of my charts were updating, so it was distracting, but the first 10 minutes of trading for First Solar, you got to like the volume there. Zozo called it basically on a break of the first 10 minutes of trading. He called First Solar at 62.45 with a 62.15 stop. And there's the trigger. And it was off to the races. It went all the way to almost 64, 63.98. So a really nice call on 30 cents risk too. What is that? About $1.50 on 30-something cents risk. So a really nice call by Zozo. I think that's all I had today. Oh, QTWW, and then I'm done. I was interested in this one as a swing trade. Okay. First, let's go to the daily, and I'll show you why. This thing just got decimated back here, all the way to $3, but you notice it never came back down and even retested that. All right, you have a higher low here, and a higher low here, and then it's been basing for a few days, and so it was pushing through that base today. And if you look at it like on 60-minute candles, look at this long base. So I told everybody I really like this as a potential swing. You've got a great base here for support, is breaking above that, and you've got a potential break. That line's not in the perfect spot, but a potential break of this 450 could really get this going. It sure feels like it's bottomed on this day. So I like it. Now, I'm not a swing trader. I told everybody if this rips through 450 today and ends up closing at 5, I may swing a few shares, but it ended up being no hold for me. I'm not holding it overnight. I still like it a lot. I think it's worth watching now over this new base. You ever get through 450, this could be good. But not that many trades today, but a nice green day. Great work by everyone in the chat room. Great teamwork identifying the volume plays like LNG and so on. And I will chat you tomorrow, guys. See you later.